Hey folks, welcome to the From Zero to Shark Tank video workshop. I was super bummed to not be able to give this workshop at the Alt Summit this year, but like many folks, my travel was canceled because of all the craziness going on. So I'm gonna try to do a video version. And I have to definitely give props to like all of those TV folks who are just like, in a day, switching to doing their shows from home and making it look really pro, because it's actually a lot harder than you would think. So props to like those late night folks and all the other TV folks that are just like switching their show gear, because like I guess that's why they're pros and not like amateur YouTubers. But yeah, props. Anyway, the goal of this workshop is to help you formulate a convincing pitch for your product or your brand or your idea, and to be able to talk about it in a concise way that convinces others that they should get on board. Quick background about myself. I'm going to share out the slides, so I don't want to get too far into it at this point, but I've worked in a lot of different realms of the design industry, so from illustration to exhibit design, ad agencies, and ultimately UX, which is what I do now. Outside of kind of those industry roles that I've had, I have taken on a lot of side projects and continue to do that because I think it's super important and super fun. I think you always get some value out of it, like no matter how much of an offshoot it seems. I have a weird mic set up because so I can do this like side-by-side video. That's why you keep seeing this pop up. Just ignore it. So yeah, I've taken on a lot of side projects along the way, and it could really be anything. Like I tend to just be a very yes and type person. So like some of the side roles I've taken on recently have been, checking people into a photo booth experience, this fishing website startup, a crazy guy that had ideas for custom bobbleheads. I've dabbled in a lot of different things, and I think that's a piece of advice from my perspective is like you only regret the things that you don't do. So if you're on the fence about something, go for it, and usually that's a good idea until you say yes to too many things, then you have to bail, and that's really painful, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Anyway, let's jump right into the workshop portion of the workshop. I'm going to intro this with, I'm about to put in a frozen pizza. That's kind of like my quarantine special. So my oven's ready, but I'm going to finish this video first. So when you're doing a pitch, you really want to be succinct. And the old advice, I was going to make a joke, but it's kind of inappropriate. I'm not going to say it. But quality, not quantity. It applies here. So you're going to do all of this pre-work and like have a bunch of ideas and a bunch of work, whether it be like drawings or writing, or there's going to be a bunch of pre-work that actually doesn't make it into the final, which is kind of upsetting. And your tendency is to like, I want to show everyone everything that I did because I spent so much time on it. But don't do that. Stick to the script, and all of that back work that you do is necessary to really get the best final outcome possible. So what is that script? You really just want to answer these 4 questions essentially. Who is your product for? Obviously, what is the product? Why is this worth building? And how do you plan on executing on it? Conveniently, that aligns very nicely with the user-centric design thinking process that a ton of, anyone who wants to have a user-centric process, from big companies to startups, all follow some type of methodology like this one, which I think was popularized or made public. It could have been before this, but I think, the big one that I remember was IDEO, maybe in like the early 2000s, I want to say. Those dates might be off, but I think, IDEO was the one to like really publicize like their process, and a lot of other companies have kind of adopted it and taken their own spin. To go over this, you really want to know who your target audience is and understand from their perspective what is their problem that you're trying to solve. So you want to empathize with that user, understanding who they are, and defining the problem from their perspective, which is very important. It's not just a general problem, it's a problem that this particular person has with their own particular spin on it. Next, you want to go wide with ideas. You don't want to execute and spend time on the first solution that comes to mind. You want to make sure that you've had time to generate many possible solutions and whittle it down to the best few. Then when you have that best few, could be best 1, 2, 3, however many, you want to give it a little bit more fidelity, make it a little bit more realistic, and get some feedback. That allows you to kind of rev on it and make it even better. Maybe narrow down to one idea that's taken into account the feedback that you've gotten on all of the ones that you've shown to folks. And once you have that, you're ready to craft your pitch and be confident that you've done the due diligence and now you're ready to sell your idea. I'm going to try to stop tapping that microphone. It's right here, off screen. Oopsie. If you'd like a better, more coherent explanation of the design thinking process, I recommend getting the Google Ventures Sprint book. And in addition to talking about a user-centric design process, it also has some great examples of companies that have used this process successfully. What I like about it is that it's not just startups or screen-based products. They give examples from a range of industries, from healthcare to hotels, and you can see how the same way of thinking can be applied to a lot of different use cases. So I recommend checking that out. I think they also have a PDF version that you can get right freaking now on their website, Google Ventures Sprint Book. So usually when someone starts a design sprint, they have the problem that they're trying to solve, but they don't have a solution in mind for the most part, and the purpose of the sprint is to get to that solution. But I know in the context of this workshop, a lot of folks, you already have an idea, maybe you already have a product, and you're just looking for a way to package that up into a convincing pitch. So we could change things up a little bit, and I think we can make these same exercises work for the situation where you already have your idea. Don't worry. So let's jump right into it. The exercises are starting, pencils up. Exercises are starting now. The first thing you need to do, as I alluded to before, is you need to imagine your user. So if you already have your product or brand idea or whatever it is, think about a particular person who's going to use who's going to use it, or who's going to benefit from this, and think about their name and think about their life. If you don't have an idea yet, just pick a person that you're familiar with. It could be anybody from your town, somebody that you'd want to design something for. So these are some examples of the level of granularity I'm talking about when I say think about that user. So we have Sherry Jones, a college student. We have Max Johnson. He's a commuter railroad rider. We have Carol Foster, who's the high school teacher. Take a minute and think about who your target user is going to be for the purpose of these exercises. Got it? Excellent, because it's worksheet time. At the end of this deck, there are a few slides with blank worksheets that you can fill out. You can do it in slides, or you can print them out however you want. But the first exercise, the first bit of this is all getting us towards our mission statement. And in order to have a mission, you have to really understand the problem that you're trying to solve for. So go ahead and fill out this template, which asks who your user is and what their problem is. So I'll go ahead and read mine. Sherry Jones is a college student who never knows what to do with friends on weekends. That's my user, something about them, and their problem. Now on the right-hand side, I'm going to plot where that problem falls on the spectrum. And I'd say it's not a huge problem. It's not like going to change the world here, but it does happen pretty frequently. So I'd plot that problem right around here on the grid. So you can go ahead and plot your problem on the grid as well. The goal of this is to do a gut check as to whether or not the problem that you're trying to solve is really worth solving, or really the one that you want to spend time solving. Because if the problem you've identified is pretty minor and it doesn't happen that often, maybe you should reconsider. But, ideally, you'd be getting something up in this quadrant, because then it's like a major problem and it happens all the time, and this is like an emergency that somebody come up with something for this. And if you do, it's going to have huge impact and a lot of users. So the more you can get up into this area, the better off you're doing. But as long as you stay away from the lower left, I think you're in okay shape. So next up, on the next worksheet, go ahead and write down a solution to that user's problem. So if you came in with an idea today, you can write it on the big Post-it. If you don't have an idea, think about one thing that would solve that user's problem that we just wrote down on the previous slide. And then in addition to that, you're going to take a few minutes, like 5 minutes, and write down 9 more potential solutions. Goal here being that we want to make sure we're pursuing the best idea and that we've actually thought of a few different directions before going all in on one. So take a few minutes, do that, hit the pause button. I'll be right here after you hit play. Welcome back. So you might be thinking to yourself, how am I going to decide which is the best idea? Or how am I going to know? Well, one way to get a signal on that is to solicit input from your working group. And normally, we would have folks vote. So you'd, give a little spiel about each of the ideas you came up with, and then give each person in your working group, 3 votes. They could vote 3 times on the same one, and have them kind of give their input for, which is the best one to pursue. Since we don't have the luxury of that in this asynchronous experience, go ahead and use, be honest with yourself and look at all the ideas you've come up with, and don't be afraid to pick one that wasn't the one you came in with. So go ahead and decide on which of the ideas you're going to pursue. Great. So now that you've decided upon, which solution you're going to go with, we can write our problem statement. And writing the problem statement is the first step towards getting your mission statement solidified. So take out that problem statement template and go ahead and fill it out. I'll walk you through it one time. What you're going to fill in is, again, your users. You'll notice that we keep reusing the same information over and over again, but just kind of rejigging it in different formats. So for the problem statement, you're filling in who your user is, what their need is, and why this is a need. So who you're designing for, what you're designing, and why it's important. In my example, Sherry Jones is a college student who needs help making plans because she wastes time deciding what to do. So that last line that we added is why this is something worth solving. Why is this important? And we're getting to the fact that time is precious and you don't want to waste time. So you really want to hone in on why the problem you're solving for is important. And that kind of links back to the problem magnitude or frequency of occurrence. Go ahead, fill that in. Don't take more than 3 minutes on it, and we'll move on to the mission statement. So this is our first pass at the mission statement. This template makes it really easy to get our thoughts in line. And then we'll take a couple of minutes to put more of a writing, salesy spin on it. So in your mission statement, you're going to state who your brand is or what your product is, what it does, how it does it, and the motivation behind it. So again, kind of the same information we've been talking about all along, but you're just writing it a bit differently, with a bit of a different perspective. So here, Acme App, which is the name of my app, helps people plan social gatherings by suggesting data-backed itineraries so they spend more time doing and less time planning. So go ahead and fill in what your product or who your company is, what it does, how it does it, a summary of how it does it, and what is the motivation behind doing it. So why are you solving that problem? Go ahead, take a couple of minutes there. And then, with all that information in mind, you can use your mission statement just as is from the template, or you can try to rewrite it to be a little bit more catchy, a little bit more punchy, and here is my attempt at that for the mission statement I just wrote. So Acme App is the best way to make plans friends will actually stick to. So this is, you'll notice that this slide has all of the essence and all the information conveyed in the mission statement template, but it's just rewording it in a way that's a bit more powerful, if you would. So go ahead, you can take a few revs of that if you'd like, but make sure to get all the information from the template into the final mission statement. Next and final exercise is thinking through the core interaction of this experience. So take about 10 minutes, use the templates provided at the bottom of this deck, and actually sketch out, if you don't want to sketch, you can write it in words. How would someone actually use this product or experience? So I'm going to use I'm going to think of an example on the spot right now. And an oven mitt, yeah, because I'm making the pizza. So my product is this new revolutionary oven mitt that you touch the food and it lets you know if it's ready. That's my product. So what I would do in that case is I wouldn't worry about I wouldn't worry at this point about sketching out all of the setup and taking it out of the box, syncing it to your oven. I wouldn't worry about all that. I would just pull out the core interaction of you put on the oven mitt, place the food in the oven, touch it, set a timer, touch it again when the food is supposedly ready, and it will tell you if it is or not. So I'm just taking that core, the main thing that it does, and I'm sketching out how someone would use that. So go ahead and do that for 10 minutes. And then, this is the next step, ready for the next step? Kind of exciting and kind of sad, because normally this would be the big point of the workshop where everyone goes around and they say who they're designing for, the problem they're solving, and their big mission statement, and they present their product idea. But since we can't do that, since we're like all remote, just use your imagination, and maybe we will do a live version of this sometime soon. But I would say something like, hi, my name's Andrea, I'm really excited to be here. I'm designing for Sherry, a college student, and oh wait, I'm like mixing, like, oh my god, I should have just stuck with the Sherry college student and like the figuring out what to do app, and I don't know why I came up with the pizza oven thing. I'm just like, I think I'm just getting hungry. But okay, anyway, you get it. This is the point where we would pitch our ideas, and everyone would clap and it'd be very exciting. And this is kind of like, and I guess like to make it exciting, sometimes we'd say like, who's the winner if there were like groups, and that's the fun part. But everyone's a winner, you know. Everyone is a winner who participates. So that's kind of like the workshop piece. But now what if you want to take it a step further? Like, what if you want to do this for real? What else do you have to do? You obviously need a bit more than a couple of sketches. You need to actually make whatever you're working on as real as possible. So if that's a piece of hardware or a physical product, you need to make a realistic prototype. If it's an app or a web-based service, you should again, make that as real as possible. And try to get some user feedback, get it in the hands of people, get their reaction, iterate a little bit based on that. But, the most important thing is these kind of like small tests will never mimic reality. So use it to catch any major red flags. But doing, the faster you can get something out there, the better. So don't spend too much time spinning wheels based on like, tweaking little things that people have comments on. That's my opinion. But you want to make it as real as possible. You want to put the best version of it out there, and you want to prove that you and your team have the capabilities to make this into something. So you have your prototype, but you should also think through what comes after the prototype. Like, how big is the audience that you're targeting? How many of these things do you need to make? How long do you need to make them? Why is your team uniquely suited to do it? Do you have any special skills that suggest that the people on your team currently are the right people to take it to that next level of production? These are all things that you should consider before actually going out and pitching for real. And and by pitching for real, I mean, these are things that you should think about, but like, depending on like how serious you are about and like what you're trying to get out of this, you can scale accordingly. And I know that like slides seem very outdated, but for venture capital pitching, they still are the golden standard. So these pitch decks, at least for now, still seem to be the biggest vehicle for communicating your idea to VCs. There's a link in the deck that I've attached or associated with this video that has a link to a template in Google Slides that was produced by Google Ventures and has outlined what the information that they look for when they are evaluating candidates for venture capital. So go ahead and check out that slides template, and you should be pleasantly surprised that by walking through the exercises in the workshop, you've actually covered about 90% of the information that they're looking for. And I know this seems like could be a lot of information, but it does get easier over time. Like, you kind of get used to how to think about things and how to approach different problems. And this is a little cheesy, and like, I don't even know if this is a true story or not, but it reminds me of the story about Picasso that's kind of, I don't know, it might be like popular online right now or something, but it just crossed my mind when I was putting this deck together. The story about how he was in a cafe and did this quick sketch, and a lady came up to him and was like, "Oh, can I buy that from you?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's going to be like $50,000. And she's like, "Why would I pay you that much? It took you like 5 seconds." And he's like, "No, it didn't take me 5 seconds. It took me 50 years. Biznatch, whatever." He's at the end. And the point of that story is basically like all of your experience snowballs into your latest product. So the more you do something, the more experience you get, the faster and easier solutions will come to your mind. That may have been a tangent, a little bit of a tangent, but hope you're cool with it. So, closing thoughts. You can't pitch a bad product. It's kind of a one-way street. Like, a bad pitch can tank a good idea, but a good pitch can't lift up or elevate a shitty idea. So, at the end of the day, you gotta have both. A good idea and a good story and a good pitch about it. Number 2, you might not be super confident in your idea, maybe because you think it's been done before, or it's not original, but just remember that it doesn't matter if someone came up with it or thought of it. Execution and delivery is the only thing that matters. So I don't care if it's not an original idea. Are you going to execute on it better than anyone else has? And just think about, in 2007, I think, I'm making up the years, but around 2007, I think every single CS student's final project was literally Instagram. But none of them turned into Instagram. Only one person's did, because they had the total package and were willing to put in the work necessary to grow that idea and make it into something. So don't worry if other people have your idea. It's how you carry it forward and your ability to execute on it. Explore other mediums. We talked about that. So the pitch deck is still the thing, but if you want to try a video, if you want to try, if you're good with video, if you're good with animation, go for it. Just make sure to get that content that's outlined in the Google Ventures deck in there, and you should be good to go. And then finally, I'm providing some advice right now, but feel free to pick and choose what you think applies to you, and that's kind of a global sentiment. A lot of people are going to give you a lot of advice, and a lot of people that give advice are not experts. So just pick and choose what you think feels the most natural to you and that you feel is most helpful. So those are my words of wisdom to all you pitchers out there. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I don't know why I put my LinkedIn up here. You can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, but I'll also supply some more chatty methods for reaching me alongside the video. I was just thinking to myself, is that a good idea or not? I don't want to deal with spam and weird pics, but I'll take a chance and then I could always shut it down, whatever. But please feel free to reach out, and I hope this is somewhat valuable. Hope you learned something. Hope you got entertained. This is my first video workshop. Thanks a lot for listening, and talk to you soon.